Rugby Tonight at 8 p.m. on BT Sport 2. So we've got 63 potential British and Irish Lions tourists on the board, just 63. They're behind us. We could have added a few more, arguably, and then maybe there's some names that aren't quite there that might go, but these are who we've got. And we're going to attempt to whittle them down to our squad of around 37, 38 in just 10 minutes. We'd also love to hear what you think, so leave your comments and questions and we'll read them out on this thing, this iPad thing, which is locked. I've opened it, it's okay. It's all right, don't worry. We were going to get this lady here, Donna. If you look at her, she's an expert, she's a whiz kid. She was going to help us, but obviously she can't. She's not allowed to touch expensive equipment. So, Lol, let's get into the forwards. These are the guys that are definitely going in our mind.
They are, and what we're trying to do here, Austin, is not pick Warren Gatland's squad for him. We're just thinking, in our view, these are, based on what we've seen on form, the players that we think make it into the final squad. And it's probably not as easy this time round to actually put the players that are definitely on the plane. You viewers at home will have an opinion, and we've been asking for those throughout the last weeks and months. So if I start with the forwards, Austin, they take 6 props generally on a Lions tour, 3 loose heads and 3 tight heads, and normally 3 hookers as well in the middle. So I think Jack McGrath of Ireland, Mako Vunipola are definitely dead certs.
Yeah.
And so the choice really for Warren Gatland is between 2 impact players off the bench. Is it England's Joe Marler, who's been playing well, or is it Cian Healey? I think personally they'll go for the player who potentially...
He's got the best name.
No, he's definitely not going on his name, that's for sure. He's going on the guy who perhaps adds the most impact off the bench. So I think potentially Healey, although it is a very, very tight call, 50-50. Now, everyone's talking about bolters and who might actually be a surprise. Potentially, one of the biggest surprises might be one of the players that Warren Gatland decides to leave at home. And yes, as much as England fans aren't going to like hearing this, I think personally, the last hooker spot, I think Jamie George is outstanding and deserves to go. I think Rory Best has been very, very good. So he's got a number of choices. Ken Owens of Wales, who's been steady, or does he take England's captain, Dylan Hartley? Now, having been born in New Zealand and having had a lot of problems off the field, this is going to be a media storm that's not going to go away. If he leaves him out, obviously it's going to create big news, but that news will all be gone by the time the Lions go away on tour. So, does Dylan Hartley go? I don't think Warren Gatland played hooker, remember. As much as Eddie Jones has been pushing Dylan Hartley, I think he's going to go with Ken Owens. That's a big call. I may be proved wrong, but that's where I reckon that squad's heading.
OK, and at tight head? Tight
head, Furlong and Cole, dead certainties in my mind. So, it comes down to the 3 players. Ferguson of Scotland. Is it Carl Sinclair from Impact off the bench? Providing he gets over his injury problems, I think this guy's been outstanding. WP Nell, for me, makes up number 9. Second rows, quickly. Again, he could take 4, or he could potentially take 5, which might include a Itoje. We know that Alan Wynne-Jones he's got an injury, but he'll get over that. Itoje, for my mind, has to go. So, who are we looking to join him? Well, we've got a number of options. We've got the 2 Gray brothers, but I think they may well have played themselves out of contention. I think a name that Brian O'Driscoll brought up is Donica Ryan. I think he's ideal for the type of game that's played in New Zealand, a real workhorse. May not make the test side, but certainly will push all the way. And then, where's Launchbury? Because I think Launchbury's certainly a contender. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, he's quite... Can you reach up there?
Yeah. Look, I can reach the top now.
So Launchbury is there for me. So there's those 4. And if he decides to take an additional second row, which I think he will, I think this guy, Cruz, also comes into the picture.
So if you swap sides, I'll move those guys out of the way, the forwards that you've already taken away from their opportunity of a lifetime.
I think Itoje will potentially go as one of these guys that can play in the second row and back row. So I'm going to put him there because he's a mixture of the 2. And then we move on to the back row. Which
Henderson not going?
Henderson, well, it can only take 4 plus Itoje.
OK, so we're taking him out.
As much as I like Henderson,
good player.
I do think that he's got a lot will depend on this guy coming back from injury. He's got a couple of games coming up for Saracens. So if we move into the back row, I'll start with the easy bit, which is the 2 outstanding number 8s. I think Billy Vunipola and Toby Faletau. Faletau's coming back into some real form. Warren Gatland, remember, not interested in players who are playing well in January or February. His main concerns are guys who are playing well in June. And I think this guy will be back to his very, very best come that time. You can't afford to go to New Zealand without 2 open sides, so both these players go out and out. And I think Warburton will be the captain of the Lions, which I think is widely known.
Yes, really well kept secret that. So let's rattle through the rest of the forwards. So we've got a bit of time for the backs. There's less backs to do and a lot easier to select.
Let's go with O'Brien, who I think is. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 there. He'll go as a number 6. I think he's played outstandingly well. And then the choice that he's got is the likes of Peter O'Mahony or James Haskell. I think Haskell, again, not a test player, but good for the midweek side. Itoji's there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. And, for my mind, if Warren Gatland wants to, he can take an additional back rower, and that could mean Peter O'Mahony. So some wonderful players like Moriarty and Heaslip are sadly going to miss out.
So how many have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, oh, 14 and 13 and 9 is...
Yeah. Come on, mate, 22. So it's a bit too many.
Yeah, maybe too many there.
So
but
it might be 1 or 2 that miss out, but I think he's got to take the extra luxury of having someone who plays in the back row and the second row.
Yeah, I think if we were going to take some out there, I think maybe O'Brien won't go. Maybe Haskell might not go. He's definitely going to take those 2, and this guy would come back in. Stander could be borderline as well. OK, let's move on to the backs very, very quickly. And we'll get to some of your questions right at the end before we run out of time. So we think that Webb and Murray are absolutely, definitely going.
Yep.
And I think they'll be joined. It's a tough one between Ben Youngs and Laidlaw. I think Youngs attacks in a similar way to Webb, so you've got that sort of player. If Laidlaw can prove his fitness, he could be an excellent midweek player who can play 9 and 10, had a little bit of control there. And then at 10, we've Sexton and Farrell definitely going. Farrell arguably going as an inside centre as well. That means they can take bigger, and I think it gives them space for one more. So who do they take? Do they take Russell? Do they take Ford? Or do they take neither of them and take an extra centre, knowing that Farrell can play 10 as well? So I think that they'll probably take Finn Russell because he's slightly different to everyone else and adds you a little bit of flair. Brings us on nicely to one of the questions, actually. James on Twitter has said, where is the weakest position for the Lions? Is it the centres? And I think maybe centre, hooker, wing. There's quite the only 3 areas, really, that you could see a bolter lining up for. And in the centres, we've gone for Henshaw, Davis, 2 big guys. Yep. We know that he loves Davis from the last tour. Picked him over Dricko, and he played exceptionally well. Joseph is the fast feet wizard who hopefully will come into some great form like we saw in the Scotland game. And Daly is a real versatile utility player, goes as the backline utility. So we've got these guys. Arguably, who misses out? Does Williams come in? We've had another question here from Morgan Roberts on Facebook. He said, could Sam Davis be an outside shot for the number 10? I think probably not. I think it's a little bit late for him. Maybe the next tour round.
Ringrose here in the centre?
Ringrose is another one. But look, I think, you know, there's guys on this side that are going to end up flying out. There's no doubt, because we're going to lose 6, 7, maybe 8 of these guys off the tour. They're going to get injured. These guys are going to fly out. There's going to be some long-term injuries there. The wing is the real position, that is so difficult to pick. And if you're going purely on form, Ashton has to be a contender.
Yep.
Absolutely has to be. Amazing stats. The only guy in the Northern Hemisphere who beats him on tries per game is Solomona. Wade's pretty close as well, but Wade's, you'd think, has had his shot in the Lions tour. That would mean that Seymour misses out, who had an excellent Six Nations, has been playing really well for Glasgow. He could miss out. It gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. The other player who misses out, if this is the case, is Halfpenny. Halfpenny and Watson. I think it's going to be a straight shootout between those two. Watson could just get the nod. Not had the best Six Nations, but he plays wing and he plays fullback. If that's the case, you bring him in. You've got enough kickers in your halfbacks. You don't need.
And Austin, while you're reading those questions, will Daly potentially could go as a wing centre, which then allows the opportunity to just bring Ringrose in.
I think there's a lot more permutations and mixtures in the back line than there is in the forwards, and you'll see a lot more guys getting picked on utility, particularly the likes of Daly and Watson. Could just give Watson that extra edge of getting in. We've got a couple more questions. Someone said, why no Gray brothers? I nearly misread that. Why no Gray brothers?
Well, I just feel that it's such a competitive area, and when you're looking at the second row, what we're saying is we've got to pick the best players. It doesn't matter what country they're from, England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales, and I genuinely believe that this area in the second row, we have world-class players, and I think that if you look at all those players that I've potentially picked, I think on the basis of what I've seen in this championship, they do sit above any of those two players. Now, I might be wrong, but that's what I
One final question from John Pease on Facebook, and it's quite pertinent, actually, bearing in mind that Faletau's been picked with his injury problems. Why no Chris Robshaw? You know, we're talking about potentially 2 England captains not going here. Chris Robshaw, been out with a shoulder injury, he's back to fitness now, played well at the weekend. Has he got a chance?
Yeah, he has got a chance, but I just think that based on what I know from Warren Gatland and what he's looking for in his selection, the back row is about balance. And I think had Chris Robshaw been fit and available throughout the Six Nations, he would have forced Warren Gatland's hand. I think the fact that he hasn't had the opportunity to play, I think allows Warren Gatland to go with players that he knows. New Zealand is not a place to experiment, and I just think he's going to go with the tried and trusted, which is why he'll pick Warburton as captain and why he'll go with the likes of Faletau.
OK, well, that's our squad. You may disagree with it, you may not. But it's all from us for now. Don't forget to tune in to Rugby Tonight, 8 p.m. on BT Sport 2, where we'll be joined by Sarah Elgin and our special guest, Matt Banahan. He's a giant. See you then.